Hello and welcome back to my channel. Today I thought I would talk about how I chose the schools I was going to apply to and why I ultimately only chose 4 schools. So although I only applied to 4 schools, I did make a list of like 20 plus schools. So I had more on my radar, but at the end of the day, I only chose 4. So to learn how I made my list of potential schools I was going to apply to, stay tuned because I will list out all of my criteria now. Also, I'm sorry if the lighting changes throughout this video. It's kind of like a cloudy, overcast day, so it's been like sunny one moment and like cloudy the next, so it's been changing the hue of my video. Sorry about that. But okay, so I know there are over like 250 PA programs. I don't know the exact number. There's like a bunch just popping up. So like how do you even narrow it down to like a list of 20 from 250 programs? It seems impossible at first. So the first thing I did was I narrowed it down by where I would actually want to go to school. Narrowing it down by location actually drastically cuts the amount of PA programs that are like you're on your list. So if you just put states that you're interested in and then go on PAEA directory, which is a list of all of the schools, then just list out the schools in each of those states. That really cut down a lot of schools that I really did not want to apply to. One of the reasons why I cut it down by location is because I've heard that you actually get a lot of good networking in your clinical rotations. So I didn't really want to go to a school in a state that I could not see myself staying in afterwards, because I'm hoping that maybe through those networking connections that I can possibly find a job. So I just wanted to make sure I applied to locations that I wouldn't mind living in after I graduate. Alright, so I have my list of all the schools and potential states I wouldn't mind going to school in. What next? So next I cut down the list based on what I would have to do for that school. So if they required the GRE, how many hours they required, and what were their prereqs. So I made a spreadsheet with all of the requirements of each of the school and I kind of narrowed it down. I realized some schools require like 2,000 hours, so I put those on my like maybe apply next cycle list. Some of them required the GRE, so I made a pile, of which ones require the GRE and which ones didn't. So I saw which number of schools I was interested in and to, kind of determine if I should take the GRE. There were also some schools that required classes that like only one school required that class. So to me at that school, I wasn't interested in enough to go and take a class just for that school. So I just cut those ones out too. So after I cut it down on like patient care requirements, the ones I think I'd be able to attain by that time I wanted to apply, the prerequisites, if I had them or not, and then the GRE, about half of them required the GRE and half of them didn't. So I separated it so there was about 10 that needed the GRE and 10 that didn't. I decided that I didn't want to take the GRE yet. I was gonna wait until next cycle to do it. So then I had my list of 10. So keep in mind, I knew from the beginning that I wanted to apply to a lower amount of schools. So I know some people have just done those steps that I did and they still have like 20 to 30 schools on their list, and that's like perfectly fine. I just knew I wanted to apply to like 10 or less, so I started narrowing down pretty harshly in the beginning. So I got those few schools that I wanted to apply to like just perfect for me. So once I had those like ideal 10 that I wanted to apply to, I started to look more in depth at their school, at their PANCE pass rate, the tuition cost, how many students are in the class, like those, whole different cultures of, each program has their own culture. So I started to look more deeply into those schools and see which ones I thought I would do best at and, perform academically my best at. So that's when I started to look more into what the school is about and not just like what I needed to do to get into the school. Another really big thing that I looked into at that step was their mission statement to see if what their school was teaching to their PAs and their PA students, if that was something that I could connect with. So some of the mission statements had stuff about like underserved populations, and that's something I'm really interested in. So I kind of put those up higher on my list versus some schools that had other things that not that I didn't like, but I just didn't connect to as much as those other schools. I ultimately decided to apply to 4. Like I said, I did not want to take the GRE yet if I didn't have to. There were some schools that required a prereq that I would have had to take, not at a community college, but at like an online continuing, education type class, which those are usually about $1,500. And for me, applying to that one school was not worth taking that class yet. So it just, by the end of it, it narrowed down to 4 schools where I met all the requirements. I felt confident in my application that I would, be competitive applicant to that school based on their previous like stats and everything that they look for. So it came down to 4, and at first it was kind of scary, only 4 whenever you hear everybody applying to like 10 plus. But at the end of the day, that's what felt right for me, and luckily it worked out. My biggest recommendation is to make spreadsheets early. If you make spreadsheets and like list everything out of what schools require and like what you have and what you're going to have that you project yourself having, you can see which schools are more feasible for you to apply to, and some other schools that may be not a reach in terms of you getting in, but a reach in terms of you having to do extra classes or take the GRE or do things that you may not want to your first cycle. It's normal that a lot of people take the GRE and stuff the first cycle. I just didn't want to spend that money if I didn't need to, because my top schools that I were really into did not require it. But if you make spreadsheets early, it really helps you determine what classes you should take, what schools you're striving towards, so it kind of guides your path early on. So of course, when applying to schools, you want to be open-minded, but you also have to stay true to yourself. So some people apply all over the country, but realistically, when they think about it, they do best when they're close to home. And so PA school is really tough, and if you are a person that really likes to have that support system close to you, then maybe don't apply to those across the country schools, just because you want to make sure you do well during PA school. Like, not only, I know it's just 2 years, but honestly they are such a difficult 2 years, and you're learning not just to pass tests but to treat patients, and you want to make sure that your mental health and your just health in general is good. And if that means being close to home, then I would highly consider just kind of applying to schools closer to where you're from. Also, keep in mind, if you get interviews, you will have to travel. So if you apply to a school and you get an interview and you're sitting there thinking you know what, I really don't want to fly out to Florida, why am I doing this? Then maybe you should from the beginning just not apply to those schools if that's just something you're not really interested in. So don't just apply to schools to apply. You should be genuinely interested in them, or at least have some sort of interest in living in that area, because traveling can get really expensive, and if your heart's not in it, then you may not perform as well in the interview, and it's a costly time. So it's best to put all of your effort and money into schools that you are genuinely interested in. I've also found over time that each school seems to have its own culture and what the vibe is. And I know vibe is such a millennial word, but honestly every school has their own vibe, and you want to make sure you find a school that you actually fit in with. So once you narrow down your list, it's a really great idea to look that school up on social media. A lot of them have Instagram accounts, and then kind of see if they do fun social things that you would like to partake in, if that's something you're interested in. Or you can even message. I've personally messaged students who are currently at that school and asked them kind of how their class is, what it's like going there, how is the the method of teaching, do they have social events, do the classmates know each other, so whatever is important to you, I would try to find out that information before you go ahead and apply to the school. So for example, when I was starting to get interested in Marshall B. Ketchum, they actually had an open house. So I went to the open house and I really liked the feel of that. And I thought, it was such a family-centered feel type of school. And I was like, wow, this is something I could really see myself, somewhere I can see myself doing really well at. So I joined their pre-PA organization that they have, and I went to the social events, and I got to meet professors, and I got to meet the students that are there, and students who are already going through rotations, and just so many people. And I once I was there, I realized wow, this is truly an environment that I could see myself at, and that quickly became my top PA school. So participating in those events not only did it help me network and meet people and be able to be more comfortable on the campus, but it was also kind of me interviewing them to see if that's somewhere that I want to be, if that's somewhere that I want to go to PA school. So, moral of the story, if the school you're interested in has events social events, open houses, anything, and you are close enough to go, because that will really let you know what the vibe is, and if that is that is a school that you are gonna do well in. So at the end of the day, everybody says, of course, it only takes one yes to get in, and that is very true, but this is still such a big commitment of your time, your money. This is where you're going to be, where you learn how to do your career for the rest of your life. So you want to make sure that you're enjoying it, that your mental health is good, your emotional health is good, you feel supported. You want to make sure you have everything that you're going to need in a PA school. So although yes, it does only take one yes, you also want to make sure that it's a yes to a school that you can actually see yourself at and feel like you can succeed, because these 2 years, I haven't gone through it yet, but I've heard that these are some very difficult years, and being at a school that you feel comfortable and welcome at and supported at is such a key factor to passing and ultimately becoming a PAC. But alright, if you have any questions about why I only applied to 4 schools, what stood out to me about those schools, You can ask me anything you want. You can either leave a comment below or you can DM me on Instagram at whitecoatchasing is my handle, and I always try to respond to DMs quickly. But anyways, thank you so much for watching, and if you enjoy my videos and want to see more in the future, please don't forget to subscribe. But I hope you have a great day. Bye.